Hi, I'm Martin Weller, Professor of Education Technology at the Open University. I'm going to talk about why be open and what are the benefits of it in academic practice. So, first of all, you might ask, what do you mean by open? So, a formal definition might relate to things like, say, you're going to release material under a Creative Commons license. But I kind of want to have a more general view than that. So, for me, it's just about your kind of general practice as an educator. That might relate to sharing content, it might relate to engaging with networks online. It might say that you use a variety of resources, so you'll include blog posts in whatever you do, and you'll share stuff through different media stuff. So the key is that you're kind of taking on board the open possibilities offered by digital network technologies. So I'm going to go through 5 benefits of open. There we are. I'm going to tell these through some tenuous links with some objects to try and get you to remember them. So the first reason I would put forward for being open is that it helps your content, it helps your ideas go further. So my object for that, a bit of self-promotion here too, is a book I wrote called The Digital Scholar. And part of that book is a bit of a rant against the formal academic publishing industry. And so I thought I couldn't go with the normal publisher. And so I went with Bloomsbury Academic, and they released a Creative Commons licensed version freely online. Anyone can read it and download it and do what they like with it. It's under a non-commercial license. And that's been really interesting because I've seen it go of a kind of a different life than a normal book. So people have taken it and used it as a staff development project without having to go out and buy 40 copies for people because they can just link to it online. And also, I've been in sort of forums and things online. I've written a chapter about this and just linked to it without feeling like I'm trying to sell a book. So that's been quite interesting. And I think it's got more citations than a lot of my other things because people can just link to it quickly and find it without feeling they've got to go and buy it stuff. So as long as you accept that you're never going to make it rich as an academic writer, and actually what you want to do is get your ideas out there as widely as possible, then open access publishing is really kind of the way to go. So why wouldn't you be open in that sense? My second reason to be open is it leads to kind of unexpected outcomes, and so my object for that is this lovely painting, and I got that when I went to India recently. So I was invited to be part of a conference in India around the subject of MOOCs, and the reason I got invited to that is kind of a story of openness. So I'm a blogger. I've been blogging for sort of 6 or 7 years. And one of the people I connected with through blogging is a Canadian guy called George Siemens, and George was one of the sort of the leading lights behind these open courses, these MOOCs, and he ran a MOOC with Stephen Downes in 2008. And one of the people on that MOOC was a guy called Viplav Baxi from Delhi. He wanted to organise a conference, and so he contacted George and said, who could we get to come out there? And George sort of went through a lot of his contacts and suggested me and people like Ronnie Knoll and Dave Cormier. So a bunch of us ended up all going to India and giving presentations. We had a nice trip around the Taj Mahal and stuff. So you can really say that trip was really a result of deciding to become a blogger sort of 6 or 7 years ago. And you never would have said at the time, if you start blogging now, you'll get a nice trip to India soon. So you can't predict those type of outcomes, but what you can often think about is all the negative things. Like, whenever I give presentations or talks about blogging, people can say, "Yeah, but this could happen. How do I find the time to do it? My material could be taken. I haven't got time to share this stuff, and people might pinch my ideas and stuff." So I think we're very good at seeing those negative outcomes, but we're not so good at seeing the kind of positive outcomes. And that trip to India is just kind of an example of that. So related to that, my third reason to be open is it's a really good way to do networking. So my object for that is a digital camera. So I used a site called Blick Photo for a while, and you do this thing of taking a photo every day, just one photo every day and uploading it, and you can follow other people and they follow you. It's a really good example of a community actually. People follow you, and it's great, and you kind of comment on their photos, and people use the photo journal. Often the photos won't be of good quality, but there might be a story behind them and stuff. It's a really nice way, just by sharing stuff, you kind of connect with other people. On a kind of more academic sense, if you like, out of Coventry, there's a guy called Jonathan Worth who runs a course called Phonar, which is a photography course, and he made it a completely open course because he wanted his students to experience critique and engage with the kind of the wider photography community. So anyone can come along and take that course, but they also engage with his former students. So those students get a kind of real exposure to a wide audience who can look at their materials. So that works really well. So kind of just on a more general point, being part of a global network and having a kind of global network of peers as an academic, it takes a really long time. You have to go to conferences, do keynoting, and you have to spend a week at the office to go and meet people every year. And now you can do that kind of networking while you're having breakfast in the morning. So I think networking is key to academics, to educators, probably more so now than ever, and they're a really good way to do it. So you almost can't afford not to. So my fourth reason to be open is reciprocity. So people give back to you what you give out there. So my object to this is another bit of self-promotion, an old book I wrote. So this is the last book I wrote, and this one was kind of written pre-social networks. And there's a really interesting comparison with writing that and that first book I showed, which was written in 2011. So in that digital scholar book, I made much more use of social networks. So for instance, I would post up draft chapters on my blog and people would comment on them, but also I'd use it to kind of put call outs for help. Has anyone got an example of this? And then people often come back to me. And I could do that because I'd kind of been in that community for a long time, and I think people kind of found it fairly useful that I'm there. I'm a reasonably good member of the community, and so people were prepared to reciprocate. And so at that point, having a social network doesn't become a time sink; it becomes a time saver for me in terms of writing that book. So that was really important. So you have to kind of put some of that investment into that community, but then it begins to reap benefits for you. Which brings me on to the last reason, and that is in teaching. So here we are. There's some OU course material. I'm studying an MA in history with Open University at the moment. It's really good material, and what's really interesting, what the stuff that I spend a lot of time on, is a lot of the historical databases they link to. A lot of those are really open, and anyone can access them. But I would think more should be actually. A lot of them do kind of need to have IDs to get into, which are through universities. Which kind of leads on to the whole kind of subject of how open should we be in teaching. So at the Open University, we've got a site called OpenLearn, which you may know about. So these are open educational resources that anyone can take and reuse. So I think they allow you to kind of repackage courses very quickly. So if you say I want to create a course about subject X, whatever it is, you can often find enough material around there to put together a course. It may not be the ideal material you'd want, but it's good enough, and you could put together that material often very quickly. But also it gives learners access to different voices and a range of things. And related to this are MOOCs, which many of you may have heard of, massive open online courses. And these can really fulfill a lot of different functions for universities. There's a lot of excitement about them making money and stuff, but I think we should put that to one side. They can act as a shop window for universities. They're also really good for learners to think, am I ready to take this course? Is this the type of course I'd want to take? Instead of having to pay a fee and find out you can study a 9-week, 7-week short course in it and find out if that's what you want to do for free, and then start actually want to go further with it. It helps blend that shift from kind of informal learning into formal learning, if you like. And also learners, as I was talking about the example, Phonar get to be part of a wider community. So there we are. That's my 5 benefits of being open in terms of academic practice. I'm sure you can think of some others. You'll probably have noticed that I've been kind of put a positive spin on it. I've kind of ignored all the potential negatives. So I guess my question to you is, can you think of any negatives? And if so, would these outweigh the positives for you?